And we are live. Hello and welcome to another episode of CAD Live, the dating show on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays at 11:30 a.m. EST that aims to answer all of your dating questions and conundrums live as we broadcast. So any questions that you've got, please put them into the chat. Anything that you would like me to talk about, whack it in the chat. Anything you want me to cover, anything you want me to clarify, put it into the chat and we will get to it later on in the show. Now, if you've been watching these shows, I've been doing this for a couple of weeks now and it's growing and I'm really happy with the way things are going. Show's called CAD Live, which stands for Charisma and Dating Live. And that is basically named after the online course that I run, which is called Charisma and Dating Academy. That opens up every quarter. Not open at the moment, but it will be shortly. Near to Christmas, actually. So I'll let you know about that nearer the time. But the show is called Charisma and Dating Academy. And basically, we cover all aspects of charisma, dating, mindset, and indeed lifestyle. So kind of bit of a potpourri, really, whatever takes our fancy on a particular day. And the way that I've been running this is that I will select a topic, something that's kind of in vogue that people are talking about, and I will sort of kick off and discuss that topic by way of a warm-up. And then in the meantime, I encourage, obviously, people watching, you guys, you sitting at home, to put your questions into the chat. And then we discuss your specific questions later on, because I always want these sessions to be as user-friendly and as actionable as possible, right? You know, it's not just about me sitting here. Thanks, G-Money. Let's get after it. We will indeed. We need some red meat. Yes, okay. So it's not just about me sitting here in my ivory tower and just talking a load of nonsense and having you listening. I want this to be actually useful and actionable, because that's what makes all this stuff worthwhile. And the whole point of this show and the whole point of this stream and this channel is to help other people. It's to help guys like yourself who are watching this, hopefully in the interest of, you know, bettering yourself, of getting better outcomes in the dating marketplace, better outcomes with girls and better outcomes in life in general. And I'm going to preface talking about Black Pill and all of that stuff by saying that all I've ever sought to do is to share my own experience with other people. And as long as I've been in this business, if you like, which is really for about 7 years now, all in, including when I was writing for various websites and blogging and so on and so forth, all I've ever really done is shared stories about my own life and said, look, this is how it was for me. This is what's happened to me, particularly in the regarding dating and girls and all of that kind of stuff. But also some other aspects of life as well, including business and travel and living abroad and different things. So this is how it's been for me. Maybe you recognize this. Maybe you identify with this. And, you know, travel, living abroad and different things. So the boomer technology cock-ups continue, I'm afraid, guys. Hang on a sec. I'm just going to turn off. I've got another window going here, and it's making some noise. There we go. That's better. Cool. Okay. Okay, that's better. Right. Okay. So what I wanted to talk about, though, is the Black Pill and to some extent MGTOW. I don't want to sort of conflate the two of those, because I recognize that they are different entities. I think there is some overlap. I think there are people who are MGTOW who might also be Black Pill and vice versa. But there are also people who are MGTOW who would probably not describe themselves as Black Pill, or at least they wouldn't identify with Black Pill in the way that I understand it. So the two things are distinct, but as I say, there is overlap enough for me to make a kind of a humorous thumbnail conflating the two across. However, and this is what I want to say. I mean, I made the thumbnail. I put that picture of a hot dog on it. Somebody humorously said that MGTOW stands for men groping their own wieners, which is really amusing. So I made a reference to that in the thumbnail. But actually, what I want to talk about today is quite serious, really. I mean, all joking aside, this is a really serious issue. And the way that I see it is this. These guys, and I'm talking particularly about the guys who veer more towards the black pill philosophy, because, all right, let's just back you up a little bit for a second. So MGTOW, men going their own way, as I understand it, and I know that, you get the any true Scotsman, arguments, and people will disagree, and so on and so forth. But my understanding of MGTOW is essentially men going their own way. That is to say, men who have understood certain truths, certain disadvantageous facts about the dating marketplace, the marriage marketplace, and they've said, okay, listen, sod it, I'm going to limit my relations with women. And there are different tiers to that. You can be a sort of MGTOW light if you want, who will still date, will still have relationships with women. I think Sandman calls it level, I forget which way he does the levels. Maybe it's level 4, or maybe, I think it's like a level 4, where you'll still date, you'll still have female friends, you'll still have relations with women, etc., but you won't cohabitate, and you won't get married, and probably you're not going to have children either. So there's that sort of MGTOW light, if you want, and then it goes all the way up to somebody who has no relations with women at all. And even beyond that, you get guys who go totally off grid, and they don't even have friends, and they, I don't know, go and live on a farmstead in Montana or whatever, and just totally get out of the whole system, the whole social system. But at its lower levels, MGTOW basically saying, listen, I'm going to live my life as an independent guy. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to furrow my own path. I'm not going to make women the principal, focus in my life. I'm going to focus on myself instead. I haven't really got a massive problem with that, to be honest. I mean, the sex doll stuff, it all gets a little bit sketchy when you start talking about banging these rubber sex dolls. Cheers. But the fundamental premise of MGTOW at the lower levels, I don't have a massive problem with. And I think there's actually quite a lot of crossover between people who are perhaps in my bit of the space and some of these MGTOW guys, because I know plenty of guys who are kind of, came out of the sort of game sphere, if you like, who don't cohabitate, who aren't married and probably aren't looking to get married, and so on and so forth, but they still date girls, etc., etc. They're aware of some of these issues that come up with intergender dynamics, but they're not sitting there crying about it. They're just saying, okay, well, fine, that I accept things how they are. I'll date. I'm not going to have her move in, and that's kind of it. And then they just get on with it. And that I don't see any real issue with. I think that's absolutely fine. When you go a bit further up that ladder, when it's sort of like, right, I'm not going to have any contact with women, and I'm going to make love to latex sex dolls instead, I have a bit of a problem with that, because I think that that's frankly weird, and I don't really believe that anyone's truly happy with that. But that's kind of a moot point for a second. So if we put that to one side, then you've got black pill philosophy. And as I said, there is some crossover between the two camps, although they're not synonymous. And black pill philosophy, as far as I understand it, and again, I'm sure there are no true Scotsman people who will come on here and argue differently, but my basic top line understanding of this is that the black pill philosophy says, if you are not 6'6" and incredibly handsome, and you have six-pack abs and probably a six-figure income, etc., then you are not going to have any access or success within the sexual marketplace, and so you might as well give up. And so what's happened recently is we've seen factions of people who hold those kind of beliefs, who may or may not be MGTOWs as well, but whatever, they've got that kind of black pill view, rounding on so-called dating coaches, or dating roaches, as they've humorously been dubbed, and saying, look, you guys are all frauds, you guys are all swindlers, you're trying to sell these poor innocent young lambs, your courses and whatever, and it's all nonsense, because none of that game stuff works. None of that game stuff makes any difference whatsoever. If you are not 6'6", if you do not have six-pack abs, if you do not have six figures annual salary, then you're wasting your time, and you might as well not go out of the house, because you are never going to get a girlfriend. You are never going to have sex. You are going to be treated but with disdain by every single female on this planet. And so, and anybody who tells you otherwise is a faker, is a hypocrite, is a charlatan, is hiding some terrible dark secret from their past, is a crook who should be exposed. Okay, this is what these guys are saying. And of course, I disagree. But as I say, there's a serious point to this. And I don't want this to turn into like a slanging match. I don't want to get into like name calling and naming specific channels and content creators, because to be frank, I don't want to stoop to that level. That's not really what I'm about. I mean, and I hesitated in even considering doing a show about this today, because I want this channel and my videos and my content to be actionable. And I don't really want to get into meta discussions of the scene, you know, and who likes who and who's right and who's wrong and all this kind of stuff. Because as entertaining as that might be, and it's kind of red meat and whatever, it's not really helping anybody. Because if you're watching this and you're not a content creator, then it doesn't like it hasn't got a lot that's going to help you, right? Just people slagging each other off. So I don't want to get into talking about who's who, specific content creators, etc., etc. People are out there. You can research it, whatever. But here's the thing: there's a really serious point underlying all of this, and it is this. In my view, black pill content creators, or people who are pushing the black pill narrative, are doing serious harm to men. Okay, and I'm going to flesh this out in a second. I'm going to tell you why I think that and why I've got personal experience of this. But like we said on a Rule Zero, maybe at the weekend or maybe it was the week before, in my view, there are basically two groups of people now in the male sphere. You've got the people who are trying to help. You've got people who are there, and there's a whole raft of different characters, different personality types, different sort of content creators, brand personalities out there. But you've got people who are essentially trying to help. There are people who are saying, look, here are some things that you can do. I understand that life is challenging. I understand that things can sometimes suck. I get that it's difficult. I get that it's highly competitive. We live in this globalized sexual marketplace. I understand all of that. But look, here are some things that you can do to improve your prospects. Now, I don't know anybody. I certainly don't work with anybody. And if I do, then let me know and I'll review it. But I certainly don't associate with anybody who is making outlandish promises. I don't know anybody in this space who is saying, watch my channel, buy my videos, buy my course, and you're going to start dating Victoria's Secret models in just 6 weeks if you just follow these 6 easy guidelines. Do these steps, join my email list, and then you're going to start dating Victoria's Secret models. I don't know anybody that's saying that, okay? I mean, I could be wrong. Let me know in the chat. But all of the people that I associate with, and certainly myself, nobody's saying that. All everybody is saying is, listen, yes, there are challenges. Yes, things are tough. Yes, it can seem like an uphill battle at times with dating, with women, with society, with all of these different things. But there are some things you can do to improve your situation. Now, if you're a male 3, and I was saying this the other day, it's unlikely you're going to start dating female 9s, unless you work on it for a really long time and you really persist and you make huge changes in terms of probably every aspect of yourself, looks, fitness, game, muscles, all of these different things. But nobody's saying, right, Mr. Male 3 from Alabama, when you take my course, you're going to be dating supermodels. Nobody's saying that. But I think what we are all saying is, if you're a male 3 and you are currently dating, female 3s or female 4s or even female 2s, you can, through work and persistence and through taking the right action, you can improve your prospects somewhat. So maybe you'll be dating female 5s or 6s or, whatever. I mean, everybody, and I believe this 100%. There's no prevarication here. There's nothing salesy here or anything like that. I believe that everybody, every one of us, can improve our prospects to some degree by doing work, by working on ourselves, by, working on our mindset, working on our physique, working on our career, our business, our career prospects, whatever it is, our game, our ability to interact socially, which is the kind of thing that I probably focus on the most. I believe that we can all improve our prospects to some extent, okay? So you've got a group of people who are basically saying that. They're not saying, right, this is a miracle cure, you're going to become Chad overnight, but they are saying you can improve. And then you've got another group of people who are saying, not only probably you can't improve, but secondly, the whole thing is futile and it's not worth bothering with. So it seems to me that you've got one group of positive people who are trying to help, and another group of people who are basically preying on the insecurities and the feelings of low self-esteem of a whole legion of men. Now, unfortunately, the group that's in the ascendance right now is the latter group, okay? And we are actually seeing what's becoming a bit of a David and Goliath battle here. Because while, game and dating advice and PUA or whatever, whatever the hell you want to call it, while that was in the ascendance back in the early 2000s, that was a big deal back in the day. People made millions and millions of dollars doing effectively what I'm doing and what John MLD's doing and all of this. And I mean, he makes great, he's been very successful in his business. So, people are still making a good money from this. But I mean, what I'm saying is this was a huge, huge, huge thing back in the 2000s. Not so much now. Not so much now. There's still a huge market for it, of course. We've got 63 people on the stream at the moment. Hopefully that will go up a bit as we go through the show. My channel is relatively new. It's relatively small. I mean, John's getting 200 people on his stream. He's getting like 200 people in his Zoom sessions for body language mastery. There's a big market out there for it, but it's eclipsed by the even bigger market, unfortunately, that's been created by these black pill doomster type content creators. So what you've got now is a bunch of people who are, in fact, the elites, if you like, because they get bigger market share. I mean, if you look at the difference from something like, say, men going their own way, and then you compare that to dating skills or dating advice or game or something like that, MGTOW and black pill are up here, and the guys down here who are teaching, these are some things you can do to improve yourself. They are the underdogs. We are the underdogs now. And we are the ones who are trying to give positive help. We're the ones who are trying to give positive advice to actually say to guys, listen, your life doesn't have to be like that. Your life could be better than that. It may be hard work. It may take you some time, but you're here, and you could be here. It could be better. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but it could be better. So you got these dudes who are trying to sell a message of do the work and you'll succeed. And unfortunately, we're getting kicked by the elites, who are these guys who are basically saying, just don't do anything, just give up. And it's ironic in a way, because I get accused of being nihilistic on Twitter and being degenerate and all this kind of stuff. And there's some truth in that. But at the same time, all I've ever done, as I say, is just shared my own story. And my story, and this is where we get to the personal part of this, really, and why I feel like I can speak on this. My story, I believe, just totally punctures the black pill narrative. So let's take a trip down memory lane. I need one of those sound effects like Myron Gaines has got, like. But I was completely hopeless with, not only with girls when I was a teenager and when I was at school, but also just socially anyway. I mean, I'm not one of these guys who was like, yeah, man, I was pretty cool. I just needed a few tweaks, and then it was all fine. I was really, really bad, and this is why I'm doing more content about introverts and people with low self-esteem, and trying to help those guys to come out of their shell and to experience a better life, because that's how it was for me. I wasn't low self-esteem. I was actually self-loathing. I actually hated myself for many, many years. And looking back on it now, a lot of it could have been avoided, but I bought into the wrong narratives. So when I was at school, I used to, I would do the typical, we might say blue pill, beta, whatever thing of I would become really fixated with particular girls, the prettiest girl in the class. And I would be like, oh my God, she's amazing. I need to get with this girl. I need to be able to date her. If I can't date her, then my life's not worth living, blah, blah, blah. Now, as it was, when I was at school, I actually did get some interest from other girls. But I would always block out those girls in favor of the one-itis girl, the girl who was the prettiest girl in the class. I'd be like, oh God, nothing matters. If I can't be with Alice, then my whole life is meaningless, kind of thing. So, and inevitably the girls that I had the one-itis for would not be interested in me. And so nothing would happen. And the girls that did show some interest in me, who were attractive girls, but I just, because I was an idiot and didn't understand how these things worked, I sort of shut them out. I went through my teens as a virgin and as somebody who told myself a story that I was almost inhuman, that I was almost unworthy of human love, and I was never going to find human love or affection because Alice had turned me down. And if Alice turned me down, then surely every girl on the planet would not be interested in me. So that was the kind of narrative that I had playing in my head. And then we moved schools. We moved towns when I was about 15, 16, I think, which is kind of like in Britain is about the last year when you're at your secondary school, as we call it, before you go to, I don't even know if it's high school in America, but we then have like what we call sixth form, which is between 17 and 18, where you do your A levels before going on to a university. Like, so you go to University of Oxford, you would spend. So I was like about 15, 16. So just the last years of school proper, because the legal age to leave school is 16. So the year before that, and I had to move schools. And we went to this new school in a different town, miles away from all my friends. I mean, terrible time to move schools, right? Because I built up friendships and stuff over the last few years, and with people at my previous school. And now I had to start again with this bunch of people that I didn't know. I was very shy. I was very socially inept. I had really, really bad acne as well at that age, which didn't help my self-esteem and, maybe the way people looked at me or whatever. So it was a real shit show, to be honest. And I started at this new school, and I was very unwilling as well. I couldn't even be bothered to throw myself into it because I was kind of angry at my parents, really, for having made me change schools. So, but I turn up at this school and I'm kind of like a bit resentful and whatever. And, but I made some friends. I made a few friends with a couple of the more geeky kids and stuff. And it was kind of okay. And then there was this one girl who was in different classes to me, and I saw her around, and she was sort of a pretty girl, but not stunning. And I think now with hindsight, you look back on it and you realize the reason that I ended up fancying this girl, being attracted to this girl, and then being in the end fixated with this girl was actually because I thought she was attainable. There was a little part in my head that went, well, she's not a 10. So, maybe I can't be in a shot with her, in with a shot with her. And so over a period of time, I became sort of like fixated with this girl, really. I really, really fancied her. And I started to fantasize about like, oh, wouldn't it be amazing? What if we got together? What would it be like? Blah, blah, blah. And there was no reciprocation from her, really. But I remember one time, when did I first ask her for a date? I kept, and I got really weird and like creepy. Like I would start to, and this is how blue pill I was, or this is how uninformed I was about the way the sexual marketplace goes down. I would actually almost try to dress a bit like her. Obviously, I don't mean wearing dresses and things like, but I would wear, she would wear blue jeans and a green t-shirt. So I'd start wearing a green t-shirt because I sort of thought the more that we are, if there's some identification between the two of us, maybe she'll realize that and she'll be more interested and blah, blah, blah. And I tried some little things. I had no game. I was very shy, but I tried a few little things to get talking to her. I remember at one point, it turned out she liked music from a certain band and I liked them as well. So I said I'd make her a CD, which I did. And I put a couple of extra songs on the end of the CD to try to pass a message to her, which didn't work, but whatever. So I tried these little things to get in there with her. And I remember one time, this is how bad I was with girls and with all this kind of stuff. I remember one time I thought, right, I'm going to send her flowers, because that's what people do. That's how girls and guys get together. I'm going to send her some flowers. So I went to I phoned up the local florists, and I said, yeah, I want to send this girl flowers. And I had her address, and I said, yeah. And then they asked me what the note I wanted to write. So I thought of some cute note. I can't remember exactly what I said. I don't think I even told her my name, actually. I don't even told her it was from, I thought I'll do it anonymously. Because that way, I don't know. I just thought maybe it's more romantic anonymously. I don't know. I don't know what I was having to get out of this whole exercise. But anyway, so I sent the flowers. And I was friends. I knew a girl who was like mutual friends with her. So I had some connection to like her camp, if you like. And obviously it was an open secret that I really fancied this girl. And I sent the flowers, and then she received the flowers. And this female that we both knew came to me, and I said, so what did she say? What's she saying about the flowers? And the girl said, well, she said, Troy, she got the flowers, and she said, I really hope they're not from Troy. And I was like, shit. And then my brain goes into overdrive, like the hamster wheel in my brain goes into overdrive. And I'm thinking, shit. And I'm thinking, like, how can I spin this in a positive way? And then I was thinking, well, okay, right. So right now, she doesn't fancy me. But that's not ruling it out forever, right? I mean, like at the moment, sure, she's not into it. But that's, in the future, maybe things will turn around. Maybe And so I thought, so I said to this girl, the mutual friend, I said, well, it's okay. Well, that's not too bad. And the mutual friend said, well, it kind of is, because you've sent this girl flowers, and then she's basically said she hopes they're not from you. And I was like, yeah, but you don't understand, because in the future, and this is the thing that people do. This is an aspect of badly gone wrong one-itis and badly gone wrong one-sided relationships, where the person who is into the other person who's not interested will find ways almost to convince themselves that there's still hope, there's still light at the end of the tunnel with that original person. But anyway, fast forwarding on, she clearly wasn't interested. And I sent the flowers, blah, blah, blah. And then I remember another time, for some reason, I can't remember why, but for some reason, I went to her house. Again, it's like incredibly creepy, but it wasn't that creepy. But for some reason, I went around to her house. I think it was just like I was going to, because back then, this is pre-mobile phones, this is pre-internet, pre-social media. It wasn't so outrageous if you lived in a smallish town to just go and knock on somebody's door and be like, hey, how's it going? Do you want to hang out? Blah, blah, blah. So I went around to her house. And I remember, and I didn't know what I was going to expect, but I knocked on the door, and I think her dad or mum let me in and said, okay, we'll go and get her. So they went and got her. She came down, she sees me there. She's probably thinking, oh shit, there's this guy again who I don't fancy, who keeps trying to, whatever. And so this girl said to me, she said, listen, I think we need to have a conversation. So just wait here and let's go for a walk. And I was like, oh yeah, this is it. This could be it. This could be it. So I'm waiting in her little porch, little hallway. And she puts her shoes on, and she's like, right, let's go for a walk. So we leave the house and we go for a walk down the road. This is like some little suburban town, very boring, bland, estate kind of area. And we're walking down the street, and she just basically lays it on the line. She says, look, I've got to just say to you, I am not interested in you in this way. Okay, I'm not, we can be friends maybe, but I don't see you as, it's the classic blowout. I don't see you like that. I see you as a friend or whatever. And I'm sort of like, I think I maybe tried a couple of arguments. I'm like, yeah, but you don't really know until you try. And why don't we just go out and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, listen. I know that's not how I see you. That's not how I see this. So it's not going to happen. And she was pretty nice about it, and whatever. But she did what I think she felt she had to do, which was to actually front it up and basically talk to me and just tell me face to face, which she did. And so then we went back to the house and she went in and I said bye and I left. And you can imagine after that how crushed I felt, my adolescent self, how crushing that was. That sense of, I have put so much emotional kind of attention into this girl. I've built this thing up to be such a huge thing, and now she's blown me out. And even for my brain, which is going into overdrive, trying to spin these things as being like, oh yeah, but if you look at it like this, or if you interpret what she said like this, then maybe she really does like me. And she, all of that was kind of blown out of the water, because even I had to admit after that conversation, this is kind of not going to happen, or at least it's certainly not happening at the moment, and it probably is never going to happen. So, that's pretty crushing, and that's pretty crushing for anybody of any age, really, if you allow yourself to get into that situation, which you shouldn't, of course, and which, if you learn some of this stuff, if you learn some of the CAD Academy stuff, you won't get into that situation. But anyway, so then I'm left with this, and that horrible feeling. I don't know whether you felt this, when you're rejected by somebody and you feel like you've been cut adrift in the world, it's like hell. That was like a safety haven. That was something, if only that had happened, if only I'd have got with that girl, I would have been happy. So things would have been okay for me. And now she said that it's never going to happen. And now I'm cut adrift. I'm on my own. All my illusions are shattered. This is horrific. And actually, I have to say, I actually dealt with it. I mean, looking back on it now, I actually dealt with it pretty well, because I've been through a few, I'd had a few knockout blows like this in my sort of like adolescence. And I actually dealt with it in some ways pretty well, because I was like, okay, well, fine. Well, all right, sod her. I'm just going to have a more interesting life than her. And it was at that point, because we lived in a suburban town somewhere outside London, and I was like 17, 18, and I was like, right, sod it. I'm just going to have a much cooler, more interesting life than this girl. And it was at that point that I started going into London, and I started partying, and I started going to clubs and all this kind of thing. And I also started drinking very heavily as well. And I'm not linking the fact that I started drinking heavily with this particular girl. It's not like it's her fault or anything, but it's kind of like, I suppose it was one of those incidents that kind of pushed me into the next phase of my life, which was really excessive drinking for about a decade. But here's the thing, right? And this is where it comes back to the black pill stuff, because I've got some sympathy with these black pill dudes, okay? And I think we should all have some sympathy with these guys. And these guys have attacked people that I'm friends with, people that I work with. They've attacked me. Pretty vitriolic stuff. But here's the thing. I don't look at those guys with anger. I have sympathy for those guys, because I was in the place where they are. Because as a result of that rejection, and as a result of the other rejections that I'd sustained over, my school years, my adolescence, whatever, I was now, and then I moved to Manchester, and that was even worse, because then I moved to this totally different city, very industrial, very grimy, different part of the country, didn't know anybody, kind of violent. It was all kinds of crap going on there. And I got really into taking drugs and all this kind of stuff. But in my head, the narrative was now set. The narrative was, I am unlovable. I am too ugly for any woman ever to desire me, for any woman ever to love me, because look at what's happened with her and look at what's happened with the girls before. I am physically disgusting. I'm physically repulsive. I will never have a normal sexual, physical, mutually satisfying, affectionate relationship with a female in my life. I will be a genetic dead end. I will be a genetic failure. There is no purpose for my existence on this planet whatsoever. And I was just starting university. And I was like, well, what the hell am I even doing at this? Why am I even at this university? What the hell is the point of this, right? I may as well not bother, because my whole life, because of my inability to form a sexual or physical relationship with a woman, as demonstrated by what's just happened, my whole life is pointless and I may as well give up. And there is nothing that anybody can say that is going to change my mind, because unless you were as ugly as me, you would not understand what it's like. It's all right for all of these other people to go to the pub, to laugh, to dance, to drink, to celebrate, to have fun, to make out with each other and all this kind of thing. It's all right for those people. It's fine. Enjoy yourselves. Have a great time. But not for me, because I am different and I am special and I am unique and I am unlovable. And that means that I am distinct from the rest of you peasants, you know, normal people. I am very, very different to you. And that thought drove me simultaneously almost to the point of suicide and almost to the point of extreme narcissism. And that is what the black pill is. It's a combination of extreme despair with extreme narcissism, because the belief that you are marked out as being special and distinct from the rest of the human race because you are somehow excluded from the carnal pleasures that the rest of us are able to enjoy so effortlessly and with such ease and with such abandon is a form of narcissism. It's a form of inverse narcissism. You are putting yourself simultaneously below and above the entire rest of the population. And the reason I know that, and the reason that I can say that with such assuredness, is because I did exactly the same damn thing. Now, I'm not saying that looks don't matter. I'm not saying that height doesn't matter. I'm not saying that money doesn't make a difference. Only an idiot, only a cretin would say that. And I don't work with any cretins. I don't work with any idiots. None of us are fools, okay? We're all intelligent people. We all know that these things make a difference. The key question here, the crucial element to all of this, is to what extent do they make a difference? And can that difference be mitigated through taking action? And my belief and my experience on this planet is that, yes, that difference can be made by taking action and by changing your mindset. How do I know that? Because, and I've told this story before, what happened then, and this again is not a route that I would advocate to anybody. And the whole reason, by the way, that I built the CAD Academy is to prevent people from going down this route, because you don't want to do it, because it set me back for decades in my life. But what happened for me was that, as I said, I went down a dark path of starting to use alcohol a lot and also starting to use other like party drugs. Because at this point, this was back in the sort of like the, I don't even want to say how old I am, but this is kind of like 90s-ish kind of time. You know, it's the big party time, particularly in Manchester, house music, nightclubs, blah, blah, blah. I got really into those party drugs, you know, ecstasy, Molly, as you guys call it today, cocaine, other things like that. And by this time, you know, things had improved a little bit for me. I ended up taking some antidepressants. I'd done some counseling. I'd started working in bars, so I was a bit more social. You know, my social life had started to improve a little bit, but I still wasn't getting girls. And I still kind of bought into that. I still bought into the same narrative. I still bought into that same black pill thinking that I'd had before. But when I started to take more of these substances and I started to drink more, pretty much overnight, something flipped. There was just a flick of the switch, right? And I've been because I've been so low self-esteem and so down on myself and so self-effacing, I've been very, very, I mean, that just intensified my shyness. It just intensified my lack of confidence. It intensified my inability to socialize with other people, et cetera, et cetera. So I was in the club, you know, I'd sort of see girls, I would go, oh my God, she's beautiful, and cower in the corner and obviously get ignored and nothing would happen. So all of that just continued. But then almost overnight, this sort of defiance started to creep into my system. This sort of sense of, well, I'm just not going to let it lie like that. I'm not going to allow myself to be that stereotype. And maybe as a result of the substances, maybe as a result of the drink, pretty much overnight, in a very short period of time, I transformed into a bit of a cocky mofo. And then all of a sudden I was like, do you know what? I don't give a damn what these people think about me. I don't give a damn what these girls think about me. If they think that I'm subhuman or not worthy of love, whatever, I'm going to go out. I'm going to wear the most outrageous clothes I can find, and I'm going to rub their bloody faces in it. And I don't care what they think. I'm going to be rude to them as I feel they're being to me. I'm going to be cocky. I'm going to be like, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to make a spectacle of myself, and I really just don't give a damn. And do you know what happened? I got my first girlfriend within a few days, within about a week of that transformation. I started dating a girl, blonde girl, very, very attractive, coveted by the doorman in the club where I was working at that time. I was this skinny little rake. These doormen were 6 foot and jacked and all the rest of it. They were looking in disbelief at the fact that this girl, this 20-year-old blonde, beautiful girl, was dating me. They were like, how the hell is this happening? And you know why it was happening? It was happening because my mindset had shifted and I was acting in a different way. Nothing else had changed. I hadn't suddenly become a baller. I didn't have a Lambo outside. I didn't have an Instagram account. They hadn't even invented Instagram then. Can you believe it? Instagram wasn't even a thing. I hadn't suddenly become Brad Pitt. I didn't suddenly have six-pack abs. None of that had happened. The only thing that had shifted was my mindset, the way that I interacted, and consequently the way that people reacted, women interacted with me, okay? It shifted. And I saw through that simple paradigm shift the truth of this matter, which is that in most cases, the way that you portray yourself to the rest of humanity affects significantly the way they're gonna come back at you, okay? And so it seems to me there's a choice. There's a choice between sitting in your own misery and saying things are unfair, I'm not a baller, I'm not 6'7", I'm not an NBA player, I'm never going to have sexual intimacy, so I may as well die. And on the other hand, saying, well, look, these are the cards I've been dealt, not necessarily the best hands. I'm not necessarily going to be the biggest player in the, the biggest winner in the casino, but I'm damn well going to have a go. And I'm damn well going to get the biggest wins that I can get with the hand that I've been dealt. And, if there are some tricks that I can pick up along the way to help me do even better, I'll do that. Because I've only got a very limited amount of time on this planet. I'm going to be dead in several decades' time. And I damn well want to have some good fun while I'm here. And I mean, that shift, that paradigm shift, I'm not saying is easy. And I think for me, it came about sort of accidentally. I mean, I've always been quite a defiant person. I've always had this like slightly rebellious streak about me, which dictates that I don't like to just accept the status quo as it is. I'm not happy if somebody, imagine there's a big queue of human beings and they're sort of like, right, okay, all right, Troy, so you get, you're kind of mediocre, so you're going to get a semi in a small suburban town, you're going to get a plump wife, you're going to get, blah, 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 you're going to get a crap car, a middling job, and there you go, that's your life. I'm not happy to sit there and go, oh, okay, all right, fair enough. All right, I'll just get on with that then. That's just not my vibe. I'm not happy with that. I would rather cheat the system and get something better. I would rather find the hacks. I would rather say, well, okay, well, like, what if I move over there then? Or what if I do this? Or what if I do that? Okay. So I've always had that slightly defiant side to me. And I think that came through just with the dating stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like, I could accept the narrative that says that I'm inhuman, that I'm never going to find love, that human intimacy and sexual pleasure are closed off from me with this like impenetrable wall. I mean, I could just accept that. It's kind of easy to do that. And the thing about doing that as well is, in a perverse way, it makes you feel good. Because for a start, you don't have to test yourself. You don't have to put yourself up. You don't have to put your head above the parapet and test that hypothesis, because you've already made your mind up. You've already made your mind up that the black pill is true and that you can't, you're never going to get better than this. So you may as well just accept it. So you don't have to make any effort. You don't have to, go out there and potentially get shot down. You don't have to test it. And secondly, you've got a bunch of other people sitting around who are cheerleading you on. You've got a bunch of other people who are there going, no, man, no, it is all screwed. That, like you're right, man. You know, you are ugly. You're never gonna. No woman's ever gonna love you. So just sit in here on Reddit with all of us lot, or in this comment section, and you know, we'll all pat each other on the back, and we'll all talk about how hard we are on the live stream chat. We'll all talk about how we're prize fighters when we're sitting at home in our underpants in our mum's basement. You know, I mean, it's like, and so then you start to feel good. You're getting that dopamine hit, you know, because you're like, yeah, I'm part of a community now. These guys understand me. It's like things are terrible, but I was right. Things are terrible. My life is terrible, but I was right all along. When I said that I was unlovable, when I said that I was special and different from everybody else on the planet, except for these guys in my little circle jerk group, I was right. I was right, you see, you normies, you pathetic normies with your happy lives and you're dating and you're going out for a drink and having a good time. I was right, and I'm a martyr. And that makes you feel good. That gives you a dopamine hit. But here's the thing. That's a really, really bad thing to get a dopamine hit from. Now, let's take this back to the real importance of all of this. Because as I said earlier on, you know, this whole thing, this whole experience that I had in my life took me to the edge of extreme narcissism, which I still teeter on now, but it also took me very near to suicide. And there were times when I was at university, particularly my first year, when I was still suffering from all of this, the black pill narrative, and as I say, black pill hadn't been invented then, but, you know, this kind of narrative, strong in my head. Nobody will ever love me. My life is a waste. I'm a genetic dead end. I may as well never have been born. Women despise me. I am disgusting. I'm repulsive, you know, etc., etc., etc. All of this is playing in my head. I came a couple of times very, very close to suicide. I remember one time in particular, I'd been for a night out. I came back. It was, I think it was the Sunday, or maybe it was even into the Monday. And I remember being in the kitchen of the place where I was living. And there was a moment when the desire to end my life was palpable. Okay, there was the desire for me to kill myself, to cease my existence on this planet was palpable, and it was strong, and it was resonating inside me. And it took forbearance for me to pull back from taking action on that feeling. Okay. And this is why this stuff is so damned important, all right? Because that is where this thinking takes you, okay? That place where somebody, a young man, I was 18, 19 years old, a young man could take their life because of that thinking, okay? How can you now see how bloody serious this stuff is? This isn't just about flaming other content creators on YouTube to try and build up your pathetic channel, to try to get likes, to try to get people giving you nice comments, you know, to grow your following, to start selling your bloody apps or whatever the hell you're going to end up, you know, flogging. This is a philosophy that will ruin people's lives. This is a philosophy that can drive young men to want to end their lives. Do these people not think about the responsibility that they have in putting this stuff out there, in reinforcing the views of the people who are watching this stuff? This is absolutely shameful, okay? This is a disease, it's toxic, and it should not be something that we draw attention to be honest. I mean, I shouldn't even do this bloody video really, because it's just drawing attention to this stuff. But you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? And this is the thing. In some ways, I was lucky that I was, you know, when I was that age, this wasn't such a big thing. I was lucky, perhaps. I mean, I was lucky and unlucky. I mean, I was unlucky in the sense that I had to deal with all of this stuff on my own. You know, there wasn't really anybody that I could talk to about it, because most of the friends that I had were kind of normal guys. And if I was like, oh my God, I'm just like, you know, black pill, no woman's ever going to love me, they just look at me and be like, well, like, what are you on about? You'll find somebody, just clear up your spots and, you know, you'll be all right. Just go to the gym, just go for a run, you know, like I didn't have what you got now, which is basically forums and comment sections of people who are reinforcing the very belief system that took me down to that low. Okay. You know, I didn't have that group of people. Like now, you can just log online. You can go onto Reddit or, you know, YouTube, somebody's video, the comment section, you know, parts of Twitter, whatever. You know, there are plenty of places online where you can find like-minded people who will just reinforce this viewpoint. And that to me seems like a really dangerous thing. And the thing that I've always loved about, you know, this space in particular, I mean, the reason I got into this space in the first place was just because, like, you know, I wanted to date better, more girls. I wanted to have more options in the dating marketplace, and there wasn't really any other support out there that would help guys to get that, except from this like online community. And you know, now you fast forward to 2020, and you look at something like Body Language Mastery by John MLD, and as much as people will have a pop at John and will, you know, whatever, they have their views on John. But I mean, I tell you, if you've been into any of those BLM webinars, I mean, he's got people there. He obviously talks about body language, but you've got guys there talking about dealing with issues of childhood trauma. You've got guys talking about career. You've got guys talking about finance, about cryptocurrency, about fitness, about, you know, nutrition. I mean, you've got a whole community of guys actively looking out for other men and saying, look, these are the things that you can do to make your life better. And I've seen guys as part of that community and the associated communities that we're part of in a bad way. I've seen guys who are probably in the sort of space that I was in at that point in my younger life, and I've seen other men, you know, in the community reaching out to them and saying, listen, it doesn't have to be like that. Don't despair. You don't have to fall down that black hole. You know, there are things that you can do to make your life better, you know? And that, I think, is what is needed. That's certainly what I could have done with. That's certainly what I could have done with back in the day. What I could have done without, and what, as I say, it's quite lucky I didn't have in a way, is a bunch of people just reinforcing my negative self-beliefs. And it's all very well saying, yeah, but, you know, look at the statistics and blah, blah, blah. You know, look at. But here's the other thing, right? I have seen the stupid thing about some of these black pill dudes is I've seen a couple of pictures of some guys in this community, and they're not even that bad looking. I mean, this is the bloody stupid thing. And I mean, somebody said to me, I think it was Facing LMS on Rule Zero, said to me, well, Troy, you're not, you're not ugly, and you know, bless him for saying that. Thank you very much, But that's not really the point. You know, the point is that at the time I believed I was, and actually I had really bad skin, so that didn't help. But it doesn't matter objectively. You know, you could say, well, you were quite good looking. And I look back on photographs now when I was an adolescent, I was like, yeah, actually, I was all right. I was quite good looking. But that's not the point. I mean, the point is at that time I believed with every fiber of my being that not only was I not good looking, but that I was actually repulsive. Okay, and if I'd have fallen into a black pill community, that would have just reinforced that belief, and it could have pushed me off the edge quicker or with more finality than, you know, how things actually happened. I mean, I was very lucky in some ways. And I mean, my story is more complicated than just looking at it through a lens of black pill, red pill, meeting girls, blah, 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 because there's also like, you know, like issues with depression, issues with alcohol, addiction, things like this, childhood trauma issues as well. So there's a lot of strands to my story. It's not like you can neatly wrap it up in a bow, but in some ways I was very lucky with the way that things turned out. And as I've said, you know, at the beginning of this stream and all the way through, really, I mean, all I've ever sought to do is to share my experience. Now, if you go to a 12-step meeting for people who, you know, drunk too much alcohol and they want to be sober, they talk about sharing experience, strength, and hope. And that's really what I want to do on this channel. You know, I say, here's my experience. This is the strength that I've gained from it. And here's some hope for you for the future. You know, maybe you can take some of this, you can, you know, put it into your own life, and maybe that's going to help you in the future. And that's really all I can do. I mean, you know, when I started all of this, I was just a writer, and all I've really wanted to do, to be honest, is to write. I mean, I never really wanted to do video. I never really particularly wanted to do YouTube or anything like that. I mean, I enjoy this now. I enjoy doing the streaming, but ultimately, if you look at my blogging, my early blogging, and then stuff that I've written in my books, it's all just sharing experiences about girls that I've met, times when I've been successful, but plenty of times when I've been shot down, when I've been rejected. I mean, some of the stuff that I shared on my blog back in 2018, 2019, I mean, I've taken some of it down now because it's pretty embarrassing. But I mean, you know, some of the one-itises and the rejections and things that I shared. I mean, I've never really seen any other content creator. I mean, maybe I'm sure people have, but you know, it's hard for me to think of anybody who's been quite so raw with some of this stuff as I have. And so, you know, and this is the thing. I mean, you get guys screaming, you know, show receipts, blah blah blah. That's probably a whole other show, to be honest. But the truth of the matter is, I've written over 150 articles. Well, I mean, I was blogging on a daily basis for 2017, 2018, and much of 2019. You know, every day writing a blog post. It's very hard to fake, you know, that amount of content. You know, I've been doing my daily email for a couple of years, again, sharing experiences. I've been creating videos, you know, I've been creating weekly podcasts. I'm putting so much content out there, just sharing my life. And, you know, and I have published photographs actually of girls that I've dated. And there are, you know, I have videos that I've shared with my private community of me interacting with girls, etc., etc. So, you know, I certainly have shared receipts, if you like. But I don't know why we went into that now, really, to be honest. But, you know, I mean, it's sort of like this idea. I think there's an idea from some people that want to attack people in this space. There's this idea, oh, these guys are all frauds. They're all these shiny, scammy coaches, and they want to be like, hey, you know, 6 tips to meet a supermodel. Just do this. And, you know, they criticize the content creator for not sharing receipts. And my perspective is, well, firstly, I have. But secondly, if you actually look at my material, for a start, I'm not saying to people, you know, you're going to suddenly become Brad Pitt. I mean, that would be ridiculous. You know, I'm not overselling that. All I'm saying is there are certain things that I'm sharing my experience, strength, and hope. So I'm saying there are certain things that you can do that I've done that massively helped me. Take that on board or not. You know, join Cat Academy or don't. You know, you don't have to. There's nobody holding a gun to your head. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that whole thing sort of aggrieves me a little bit as well, because I mean, really, my whole career in this space, if you like, has been sharing receipts. And actually, a lot of the receipts have had negatives on them. I mean, a lot of them have been invoices, not receipts. Because I've never claimed to be the greatest player on the planet. I mean, that's not the point of this. That's not what it's about. That's not what I'm about, you know? I mean, this is about saying, look, you can get better results in the area of dating and also other areas of your life if you do certain things, in my experience, than you would have got otherwise. And that is actually positively trying to help people. I mean, of course, you know, we're doing this as a job. I'm doing this as my business. Of course, you know, I charge for products. I charge for books. But, you know, I put a lot of time into this, and I put out a lot of free content as well. You know, like I'm putting out like this video for free. I'm putting out, you know, most days I'm putting out a YouTube video for free, content on Twitter, content in my free email, link below, etc., etc. All of this free content. Of course, I've got to charge for some, because otherwise I'd be living under a bridge. But you know, this sort of, these accusations, this attempt to slur and this attempt to be like, oh, scam. It's so disingenuous, particularly when the truth of the matter is that, as I said on Twitter, I mean, like, just because you're grifting for likes and for comments and for attention rather than money, that doesn't let you off the hook for being a grifter. And the reality of the matter is, these black pill people, they know damn well that they've got a good, juicy red meat kind of perspective. They've got a good, juicy red meat topic that guys will buy into, because it's easier to buy into that than it is to self-help. And quite frankly, they are exploiting the audience. You know, they are grifting the audience. And I think some of them sell products, some of them don't. But, you know, nevertheless, if you're building up an audience for your channel, regardless of whether you monetize that or not, you are still grifting, okay? You are still pulling in eyeballs because you want to claim, because you want those dopamine hits, because you want to feel good about yourself, because you're right and everyone else is wrong, okay? but it's not helping anybody. It's not. It's saying, here's the problem. Isn't life miserable? And then that's it. Where do you go from there? Well, if you were me when I was 19, you end up suicidal, living in a council flat in the north of England, which is not a great place to be. Okay, I mean this is what I mean. And again, I'll finish on this, but this is serious stuff. This isn't a joke. This isn't like, oh, let's do some flame wars with some other guys, you know, to try and like get more likes and crap like that. I mean, this is people's lives that we're talking about. Okay, and quite frankly, you know, people who are throwing shots at content creators who, yeah, they may be monetizing their products, whatever, but they are genuinely trying to help people. They are genuinely sharing their experience, strength, and hope is a low thing to do, and it's disingenuous. And they know they're doing it. This is the thing. They know damn well they're doing it, and it is damaging. It is harmful to men, and it will lead to guys. You know, it will lead to deaths in the end. I mean, it will lead to guys wanting to top themselves if they buy into this narrative, which, like I say, for the most part is a false narrative. I'm not saying that every single person on the planet is, you know, I mean, okay, there are people with severe disabilities and severe, you know, issues that will impede them in life. I mean, of course that's true. But I strongly believe that probably for the majority of people that consume this content, that's not the case. I mean, just look at Josh. Who's one of John's guys in Body Language Mastery, the guy who's in the wheelchair. He's seen 2 goals. I mean, you know, for the vast majority of people who are consuming this content, they could improve their lot if they wanted to, if they put a bit of time into it. And these channels are just encouraging them not to do that. And that, I believe, is a very, very bad thing. I think it's doing a disservice to guys. And it's a great shame. So anyway, rant over. That's an hour worth of rant. Let's have a look at some of the comments. I mean, people are talking about MLD here. I mean, the thing about MLD is, right, I mean, like, you know, obviously I've worked with him for a while through Rule Zero. I've worked on his Body Language Mastery. MLD is a good guy. I mean, like, I've seen him do webinars. He does those webinars that he does for Body Language Mastery, right? He advertises them they're meant to be like for 2 hours, and they're included with the course of the, you know, you buy the course and then you get twice a day, 2 webinars a day for 2 hours. But sometimes those webinars will go on for 5 hours. And MLD's just sitting there, like, talking to guys, like helping guys work through their problems. You know, I've seen him there on the webinar. There's some guy who's like got really bad social anxiety, who finds it hard to walk out of his front door. MLD's there, like, talking to the guy, understanding his issues, coaching him through his issues, bringing him out the other side. You know, I mean, yes, he's quite showy. Yes, he's, you know, he's got that kind of like pizzazz to him and all the rest of it. But on the back end, he's doing the work, man. And, you know, the group of people that he's pulled together in order to make those webinars happen is incredible. I mean, I'm jealous of him, really, in a way, because he's done, you know, and whether you say, well, it's all just for business purposes or you know, or what, I mean, I don't believe that's the case. But even if you have that view, just the group of guys that he's brought together, such an amazing resource. If you look at the Body Language Mastery guys, you know, you've got hypnosis dudes, trauma issue dudes, finance. I mean, I went through all this before, but you take my point. I mean, just such an incredible resource. I don't see anybody on the black pill side of things pulling anything like that together. I mean, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but all I see on the black pill side of things is, yeah, you're not 6 foot, so yeah, she's going to reject you, bro. Why didn't you go to Stuttgart? And, you know, the hookers there are really good. I mean, that's all I see. And I mean, that's not really giving anybody anything, you know? And like I say, I mean, in the end, I mean, I'm getting a bit angry at this and everything, but in the end, I think we need to have sympathy for these guys, really, because I've been where these guys are. I know what it's like, and it's a painful place. And I hope that they all get out of it. I hope that they all, you know, find a way to get out of the narrative that is imprisoning them in this place, because I guarantee that for the majority of them, things can be better. I'm not saying things can be amazing. I'm not saying that, just take Cat Academy and you'll be on an island in Hawaii with 6 supermodels in 3 weeks. I'm not saying any of that. Life is hard. Life is difficult for everybody. But I think most of these dudes, to be honest, could be having a better experience than they are. And the black pill is actually holding them back. This is the thing. The black pill is holding them. It's imprisoning them in a narrative, which is actually destructive. And, the difficulty with the narrative is, and this is the thing with all, I don't want to say black pill's conspiracy, but you know what I mean? This is all sort of narratives that you apply onto society or human interaction, if you like. All of these narratives are flawed in some way or another, and all of them are sort of self-propagating to some degree, and all of them crucially contain a grain of truth. And some of what the black pill dudes say is true. It is observable, of course. But like I say, I mean, I could have said exactly the same stuff about myself when I was 18 or 19. And if I'd have carried on saying it, I would probably be dead by now, or I would be having a very crap life. And I'm not. And yes, I mean, I did then go on and make improvements to myself. I started, you can tell by how ripped I am. I started to go to the gym. I started to dress better. I have become more confident. The way that I come across now is very, very different to the way that I was when I was 18 or 19 or 20 or 23. It took a lot of work. But you can pull yourself up and you can get better results in life than you would otherwise have got, I mean, that's my experience. Now, these guys will say, scammer, he's a scammer, blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, ultimately, if they want to think that, then I can't stop them from thinking that. But as I've said, all I'm doing is sharing my experience, my strength and hope. And my experience is that I thought that things were one way. I thought things were black pill-like, and I discovered that I was wrong. And I think that a great many people who buy into this stuff, and remember, these guys are the majority now. These are the big boys. These black pill dudes, these MGTOW dudes, they are the ones with the jackboot on. We are the little guys. Okay, we are the guys fighting back and saying, no, hang on a minute. Have another look at this. There are things that you can do. We're fighting against this is a David and Goliath situation now with these dudes. That's not to say that I don't feel sympathy for them as well. But I'm just saying, if you look at the audience goes there, there will be more people watching one of their live streams than will watch this live stream, because it's kind of easier just to buy into a narrative of saying, yeah, everything's crap, so I'm going to sit around and not do anything. It's just easier, isn't it? Why wouldn't you buy into that narrative when you've got a bunch of guys who are cheerleading you and sitting there going, yeah, Troy, you're right. You are really ugly. You're right. Women only look at 6-pack abs and 6 foot and 6 figures, and you haven't got those. So you're never going to have sexual intimacy. So have another bag of Cheetos. Who wouldn't want to buy into that? Because it means that you have to make less effort. Okay. But the difficulty is that it also takes men to a very, very low place. And I've been at that place, so I can talk about this. Cheers, Mark. Thanks very much for that. Good rant, man. Yeah. Cheers, man. Okay, so Afro says, confidence is mostly based on external validation, reinforcement, feedback from others throughout the years. On skills, behavior, looks, that's why Chads have it easy. They don't have to pay for courses, books, and make MLD rich so they can live the high life. Well, that is true. Okay. I mean, there's truth in that, right? I mean, he's got a point, hasn't he? Because if you're born a Chad, say just for a moment, you're born like one of those Swedish Chads, they're like 6'5", chiseled cheekbones, blonde hair, sparkling blue eyes, ripped, all the rest of it. They're good at sports, they're popular, whatever. They've got everything, right? Then yes, they have to make less effort. they don't have to make MLD rich. Well, okay, fine, but what are you going to do with that information? I mean, that might be absolutely true, but what are you going to do? What's the takeaway from that tweet? From that message? Do nothing. Go and live in a cave. Bury yourself in a well in the garden. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what is the answer? Because I'm not any of them. I'm not 6'5". I mean, I'm working on the abs, but I'm not. I don't have that sort of men's health kind of physique. I'm not rich. I'm not any of those things. And yet, my success in terms of dating and other aspects of my life over the last 2 decades has been I've outperformed other people around me. I've outperformed friends. I've outperformed people who have probably come from an easier place than I did. So, I mean, like I've said before, I mean, in the end, I think we all have to make a choice and think, well, what am I going to do with my life? Because we've all got a choice. I mean, if you want, go and subscribe to Black Pill channels and go and sit in your room. I mean, it's not like it's nothing to do with me. I mean, I hope you don't do that, because I don't believe that's necessary. I don't believe that that's a good way for you to go. I think you could listen to what they have to say. I think you can say. I think you can be open and you can say, okay, right, what are they saying here that's got validity? I think that's fine, but I wouldn't. I hope you don't make it a lifestyle choice, because I just think it's counterproductive and it's going to make you unhappy and it's going to take you to a very dark place. But in the end, right, it's sort of like, this is what I said about playing your hands, because it's like, you just got to make that decision. You've got to think, well, okay, here's my hand. This card's not bad. That card's crap. That card's crap. That card's all right, but not that great. Okay, well, I'm here for 70 years. What am I going to do? And you can sit around complaining and sort of like become more and more embittered and everything else. Or you can say, well, listen, sod it. I'm gonna chuck the cards up in the air, and I'm gonna let them fall. All right, I'm mixing my metaphors here. I'm gonna let the chips fall where they may, and I'm just gonna have a damn good go at this in one way or the other, because I only get one shot at this. Ask Decapos as a player, how do you motivate yourself during dry spells or when you did not feel like going out to approach? Well, it can be difficult. It can be very difficult. I think focusing on the process, not the outcome, is really important. I think having a goal is important or is useful. So if you say to yourself, right, I'm going to approach, even if it's relatively small, like say I'm going to approach 10 new girls this week, or I'm going to approach 1 new person every day this week. That's 7 in the week. And almost like writing it down, making a note of it, not in a creepy way, but just to keep your mind focused. I mean, Roosh used to talk about, Roosh used to have this idea about making 1 approach per day. And he used an app. I don't know if it still exists. I never tried this app, but it was called Don't Break the Chain. And it was basically like, you'd count every day when you did the approach, when you did the action, you'd sort of tick it off. And the whole purpose was not to break the chain, because you want to have that unbroken chain where you've taken action every single day. And if you sort of gamify it like that, I find that really, really helps. I find that really sort of like keeps you on track, because it becomes then more than just, I want to talk to these girls. It becomes like, I don't want to let myself down because I've said I'm going to do this and I don't want to, mess up. So yeah, gamifying is a really good way of doing it, I think. I mean, sorry, I'm just looking through these. Once you have a deep belief in yourself and confidence, this really makes a big difference. I believe it. Yes, I think it does. Where do these black pill guys get their obsession with facial features, the distance between one's eyes? Yeah, I mean, it all gets very, very granular, doesn't it? It all gets very sort of, the precise proportions of the jawline and the and I think it doesn't help you. It doesn't help you when it's actually quite damaging to get too into this stuff, because when you start, you're just going to find more things that are wrong with you. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of things wrong with me, and please don't start pointing them out in the chat, but you know what I'm saying? There are plenty of things wrong that you could pick on facially with a lot of us, right? Unless you're that Chad, Swedish model dude. But being aware of them and making yourself more aware of them by studying this content is not going to help you. Because when I used to do a lot of nightclub game, for example, I would be standing in front of the girl, and I don't quite know how this came about, but I developed this idea. I developed this image of myself that I was absolutely gorgeous, and I'd be standing there in front of the girl looking at her. And my sort of internal picture of it would be, I'm looking at her, and I've got almost like model looks, and I'm kind of looking at her, and I'm sort of like, I'm also aware of this idea in my head that I'm also stunningly good looking, and I'm just like fixing her with this look. And it must have transferred itself somehow, because I found myself getting really, really good results, in like nightclub situations and things, just by having that just ballsiness, that just bowling in, and sort of almost like with that supreme self-belief, with that supreme and very high regard for one's own person, just sort of like, just unquestioningly. And the more that you chip away at that, the worse it gets, because then you're sitting there going, oh yeah, I'm looking at this girl, but are my eyes too close together? And as soon as you start thinking that, then you're going to that's going to take away from your confidence, and that's going to transmit itself to her. I believe that there's a lot going on in social interactions that happens beneath the surface. I mean, yes, the surface is very important. Yes, the way that you look is important, because she's going to see you and she's going to make an assessment. Is this dude, how good looking is this dude? Does he tick my boxes, whatever. But there is also something happening under the surface that is intangible and chemical, perhaps, or biochemical, that makes a huge difference, I think, to interactions. And you'll see this, right? You'll see this because, like, for example, I was talking to a friend recently about the difference of how females will react to you if you've just had sex compared to if you've just come off a dry spell of like a month. All right. So if you've come off a dry spell of a month and you go out, just not into a club or anything, but just around town or, whatever, and you interact with women, then, probably not you're not going to notice, they're not really going to pay much attention to you. You're not going to notice anything untoward. It's going to, it's going to be very flat and, whatever. If, though, you've just had a one-night stand with somebody, with a new girl, and then you rock out on the bus the next morning and you go, and I may or may not be speaking from experience here, and you rock out and you go to to the local newsagent, you're all bleary-eyed and your kind of shirt's untucked because you haven't had much sleep. It's almost like on some sort of like pheromonal level, the female picks up on that and she starts flirting with you, and she's like, and you can feel that sexual attraction that she has for you. Now, that difference in the way that the female reacts to the guy based on how near, how recently he's had sex, that's got nothing to do with looks. The guy looks exactly the same. The gap between his eyes is exactly the same. The precise measurements of his jawline and his cheekbones are exactly the same as the day before. The only difference is that he's had sex, and in some way that is being communicated via pheromonal activity to the woman, and she's responding to him more favorably than before. So, I mean, I believe, and this is my experience from over 40 years on this planet. I suppose a lot of those years were irrelevant because I was a kid, but you know what I'm saying. For decades on this planet, as an adult male, my experience is that there are intangibles that affect the way that women respond to you that are not directly attributable to the way that you look and to the precise geometry of your facial features. So the guys that claim that it is just about that are wrong. Or at least they're not taking other elements of it into account. Because how do you account for the fact that if you've just got laid, you're going to get girls looking at you and smiling at you and giving you eye contact, versus if you haven't got laid for 2 weeks or 3 or a month or 2 months, you're not. But you look the same. So how does that work? And I don't believe that that's the only thing. I don't believe that it just getting laid is the only factor that changes it. I think there are other things that change it as well. How come if I go to the gym and I do squats, big muscle group, big testosterone boosting exercise, how come when I go out of the gym and I walk around town and I go and buy a sandwich or whatever, I get more indicators of interest from girls than if I haven't been to the gym on that day? I mean, I look the same, It's not like I've suddenly gone for jewelry wiring or whatever. So how does that work? Is it possible, just from your own personal experience, just from your own interactions with women and in different states, states of energy, is it possible, just as a thought experiment, is it possible that there are other things than just your physicality that are making a difference here? And if that is possible, then is it possible that by taking certain behaviors and doing certain things, that we can influence that distinction? What I mean is, if we accept the premise that, yes, there are certain things over and above just our physical attributes that affect the way that women respond to us on a romantic and flirtatious and sexual basis, then is it also possible that we might influence those things to better ensure that we get the outcomes that we want? Well, presumably it is, right? If one is true, then doesn't the other follow? And if the second one follows, then doesn't that validate on some level the notion of game? Because what is game? This stupid word that someone came up with in the early 2000s or whatever. What is game other than finding ways to influence the way that people react to us, other than purely through manipulation of the way that we look physically? Right? So it seems to me, and like I said, I mean, backtracking a second, I mean, nobody's saying that looks aren't important. Nobody's saying that looks don't make a difference, that height doesn't make a difference, and all of these things. But, if you have ever experienced a situation where, because it happens, some days it happens, a lot of the time, I mean, I'm based in London, a lot of the time, go out and, I can't get arrested. I mean, nobody looks at me, And then there's other days, for some reason, when I'll be like, oh, that was interesting. I've got a girlfriend now, so I'm not soliciting this, but I'll walk around, and other days, suddenly a bunch of girls will just look at me and they'll keep that eye contact for a little while. And I'll be like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what, I wonder why I'm having that slightly different effect today than I was yesterday. I mean, I would imagine that a lot of us have experienced that. And if we've experienced it, it surely demonstrates that there are things that are, separate to just our physicality that is affecting this. And so if those things can somehow be controlled or controlled to a degree, then that means that game works, or at least it means that certain types of game done correctly can potentially move the dial on our outcomes. And that's really all that any of us are saying, isn't it? I mean, like I said, nobody here in this space is saying, sign up for my email and do these 6 things and you'll be dating, I don't know, who's hot now? I don't even know who's hot anymore. Who's cute? Emily Ratajkowski? Nobody's saying, sign up for my email and you'll be dating Emily Ratajkowski. What people are saying is, if you do certain things, then you are going to improve your batting average out there. You know, you're going to improve your chances. Yeah, it's all about no fap. So I think the black pill guys are in a bad space mentally. I don't mean, I'm not trying to say they're insane, but I believe, because I was there, I think that they are. I don't think they're in a good space spiritually in their lives. I don't think that most of them need to be there. I accept that you can point to people who probably are outliers, but you can point to people and say, look, this guy is, you know, he has these issues, and to such an extent that, you know, the reality is he probably isn't going to get much traction in terms of dating and other aspects. And I accept that there are, undoubtedly, I'm sure there are people like that, but I do believe that they are an extreme minority. And I do believe that most people, wherever you're coming from, you can improve things. And I think that certainly my experience of life would dictate that the success, even without reading books about game, even without watching videos or signing up or making MLD rich or signing up for somebody's newsletter or whatever, just walking around, just being out there in the world, I think, just from my own experience, I've seen that girls react differently to me at different times, and that isn't purely predicated on the way that I look. It's not like, for example, like I just got my haircut right today. It's not like I get a haircut and suddenly loads of girls are looking at me, and then I don't, and they're not looking at me. It's not like that. It's more something to do with the way that I come across. And I don't want to sound wanky here, but it's something to do with my energy, okay? When my energy is high, again, this is terribly, I'm going into like bloody guru pill now, but bear me out. There's something to do with my energy. When my energy is good, when my energy is high, I get better responses from the people around me, you know, women and men. I mean, men socially and women romantically, sexually, right? So what if there was a way to control that energy? What if there was a way to control the way that I'm coming across? Well, there is. It's called game, or it's called, if it's not called game, it's certainly some of the things that we teach, like doing warm-up exercises, like doing, you know, I mean, just a very simple thing, hitting the gym. Hitting the gym changes your body, but it also changes your energy. And like I said, you know, you walk out of the gym pumped, you're probably emanating testosterone. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't know exactly how all this works, but, you know, something is coming off you that is changing the way that women respond to you, you know. So does talking to a lot of people, you know, building up momentum, building up what we call states. You know, why is it that if I go and do a daytime, say I go out with a client and he does a day game session, the first 5 approaches are crap. You know, they're awkward. The girls are just ignoring him, telling him to you know, to where to go, whatever. And after about 5 approaches, suddenly he's in state, and suddenly the girls start smiling at him. You know, they start giving him eye contact. They start like giving him indicators of interest. Well, why does that happen? He hasn't had plastic surgery in the middle of the session, has he? Do you know what I mean? He hasn't just gone on a plane over to Brazil and had his, like, you know, his jewelry done. So it must be something else. And this is the thing that these guys are overlooking. And they're overlooking it in order to build up an audience for themselves, in order to acquire, you know, market share, potentially to make money, or at least to get the dopamine hits that comes with increased market share. And they're doing guys a disservice because they're not giving the whole story. And the guys that are trying to help people, like MLD, like potentially the host of this very program that you're watching now, like the other people who are just saying, look, things aren't perfect. Dating marketplace is a bit screwed, but there are things you can do. The people who are trying to help are trying to point out that there are little tweaks that you can make that will improve your lot out there, you know? And to me, that's what it comes down to. And like I say, I mean, I've been in that place of near suicide, depression, anxiety, alcoholism, addiction, all the rest of it. And I don't want to see anyone else go there. And, you know, I do think that people propagating this stuff, you know, perhaps they're in an unhappy place themselves, and I sympathize, But I wonder if they're thinking about the potential effects of this on other people. And it is serious because, as we know, we live in a, male suicide is on the rise, and it's high. And, we're living in a time of great anxiety anyway, because of the various things that are going on around the world. So I think that we just need a bit more positivity, a bit more emphasis on ways to help people rather than to just contain them in their narrative of misery, because I just don't think that's doing anybody any good. Anyway, I've got to get going now. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this. Sorry, it's a bit of a rant, but just wanted to get a few things off my chest there. So sign up for my email list. No, I'm not joking. But do actually, because it's free. So link to my email list is below. So do get onto that. It's absolutely free. I send out an email most days of the week during the working week. You can grab my books, and again, I've got a book collection. Scam, but they're all books about my experiences. It's all personal stories, and then saying this is what you can learn. If you like my vibe, if you like what I'm saying, you might want to have a look. If you don't, that's fine. But anyway, it's only $39. There's a link for that below, and that's it really. So I'll leave it for now. Thanks everybody for commenting. Sorry I didn't get to all the comments, but just wanted to to get all this stuff out. Be back on Wednesday with another of these shows. I'm not sure what we'll be discussing yet, but I will come up with something, or just leave me a comment below. Let me know what you'd like to discuss. That will be at Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. EST, 4:30 p.m. GMT. And yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in, and I will leave it there for now. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.